I am a survivor. I'm not a victim.
If you're one of those people who don't think people can change, you're in for a real awakening. It's hard to tell by meeting her now, but just 7 years ago, Lynn Gilkey was a crack cocaine addict.
I started using gateway drugs like nicotine and marijuana and in my teens, like 12. At the age of 24, I was introduced to crack cocaine, and I was immediately addicted. When the addiction took over, I didn't want to work. I couldn't work. I was consumed. The thought of getting more consumed my every waking moment.
Since she wasn't working, Lynn needed to find another way to pay for her drugs, so she began selling.
My house ended up getting raided, and which was a blessing. I look at it now, and it was truly a blessing.
Now, a lot of people end up going to jail or their house is raided and whatever, and they don't change. They come back and they are the same as they were before. They just pick up where they left off. What in you changed?
My children. I think I know. When they raided my house, my daughter, my youngest, she was 6 months, and realizing that I may not see her until she's an adult. And I was looking at a 15 to life sentence, and in that jail cell, I just surrendered, and I made a commitment to my Lord to change my life, and if He would allow me to get out of that situation that I was in, that I would use my life experience to help other women.
How many times had you gotten in trouble and gone right back?
I can't even count. I had gotten arrested before, and I was in the back of the police car, and I would say, Lord, if you get me out of this situation, I'll change. But it was something about that situation that my heart was different. I had a sincere heart.
Throughout this interview, what impressed me most was the fact that Lynn takes responsibility for her actions and refuses to blame anyone or anything for what happened in her life. And just so you know, it was a tough life, one you need to know about to understand what it took for her to overcome and succeed. Lynn was one of 8 children who was born to a woman who died during childbirth.
My mother passed away when I was 3. We had to go live with a family member, an extended family member, and there is where the abuse started. It started there, and it continued. It continued for years.
7 years, to be exact. Lynn was 10 when her father remarried and brought her and her brothers and sisters home again. As if being abused wasn't bad enough, after returning home, Lynn was raped. Then, years later, Lynn found herself in front of a judge. Despite the fact that she faced 15 years to life in prison, Lynn says the judge ended up sentencing her to 18 months probation instead.
I knew it was a blessing, and I knew it was my opportunity to change my life.
And change her life she has. With the help of organizations like Dress for Success, Lynn has put all of that behind her.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Karen.
Dress for Success has just been a blessing. They saw some leadership skills in me that at the time my self-esteem was really low. I couldn't see past my situation, let alone see anything good about myself.
Dress for Success provides more than just clothes, although that is part of the program. The organization also gives these women important life skills.
Over here and right along here.
Yeah, I'm about in the 18. Dress for Success taught me some business etiquette and resume building and interviewing skills, and I was able to connect with other women that have had difficulties in their lives, and we networked and we encouraged each other.
After taking part in the program, Dress for Success sent Lynn to a Success Summit meeting in Washington, D.C.
At that summit, something sparked inside of me, and something began to grow, which was self-confidence and self-esteem, and I was able to to see beyond my past.
Since taking part in the Dress for Success professional women's group, Lynn has made good on that promise she made to God while in that jail cell so many years ago.
Went back to school. I went to Butler Community College and I received my certification in drug and alcohol counseling.
Today, Lynn is a successful advocate for the Regional Prevention Center, where she counsels teens about the consequences of doing drugs. Although Lynn has turned her life around, the journey has not been easy.
What was the hardest part for you, having to change your lifestyle?
I think the hardest part has been my children. I think that I know that during my addiction, I was not emotionally there for them. I was consumed, I was selfish. And I think that that damaged them in some way. So rebuilding that relationship with my kids, it has been difficult.
And since she's a convicted felon,
it's been difficult finding jobs. I know I've changed. I know I'm forgiven, but it takes a while for society, I think, to kind of look at felons in a different aspect. But I don't let that hold me back. That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. I just keep going.
Lynn says she's learned a lot along the way. One of the major lessons was the power of forgiveness, which she has even extended to the man who raped her.
I had an opportunity to face that young man again, and I was able to forgive him because I knew that in order for me to move on, to move forward with my life, I had to forgive because I had done things in my life that I needed someone to forgive me for. So how can I not forgive, and how can I ask someone to forgive me?
Lynn says she was also able to forgive the person who abused her as a child.
It was only through the grace of God that I was able to do that. For me, and I have to just speak for me, it seemed like I was just dragging a big ball. Everywhere I went, I was dragging this big ball of guilt, of shame, of pain, of anger. And it was, when I forgave that person, it was like that weight was lifted. He hugged me, and when he hugged me, he whispered in my ear, "Thank you." Because I don't know what he had been through. I don't know what caused him to do what he did, but maybe he was abused. Abuse is a cycle, and someone has to end the cycle. And by forgiveness, that releases it. I'm free, he's free, and we can move on.
Although she has moved on, there are a few people from her past she wants to track down.
And I want to find those officers that raided my house, and I want to tell them thank you. Because if it had not been for that whole episode in my life, I may still be using drugs.
Now, instead of being consumed by drugs, Lynn is consumed with.
My mission is just to give back to other women that have went through similar situations. Who better can understand their pain than someone that's been through the situation?
And someone who's come out better on the other side.
I had to look at my life and my situation as not in vain. It didn't go in vain. And what people meant for bad, God was able to turn that around into something good.
And it is good.
And I go to treatment centers, and I go to homeless shelters, and I talk to women and anybody that'll listen. That if I can do it, anybody can do it.